Here we go. Peter Shadowan from West Palm Beach, Florida. He will have the preferred inside line headed into turn number 1. He's in that yellow Honda CRX. The blue Nissan Sentra SER of Bill Ball will line up alongside row 2, the Californians, Joe Huffaker and Troy Ermish, Jonathan Goodale and Paul Mavoli alongside in row number 2. Great and good alignment, and the car is starting to accelerate now. It's a drag race into turn number 1. The front row got off cleanly, and we'll see what they can do, as it looks like Bill Ball will crowd Shadowan down to the inside just a little bit and see if he can make a move around the outside, and a car off on the inside. Already contact, 3 cars off track, and that derails the race for a couple of the front runners in qualifying.
Yeah, some big contenders too. That was Jonathan Goodale, had a big lockup, cut across the inside of turn 1 and collected not only the entire second row, but also Ryan Kristoff, who was on an amazing start challenging for 5th. So Huffaker, Ermish, Kristoff all off, in addition to Goodale, who actually recovered okay, but unfortunately he kind of suffered 3 casualties as collateral.
Bill Ball was able to make that pass around the outside stick while all the chaos was unfolding behind him. He has been able to race out to a substantial lead, and this is a great look back through this field. Diverse as they come in SCCA competition. The SCCA really has something for everyone. If you like the spec classes where it's tight competition and down to the driver, they've got those aplenty. But classes like this, with different cars, different power plants, different approaches to the cars, it really is a feast for the eyes.
It's a great look at Graham Fuller. That's one of those semi-production, semi-tub cars. Look how wide that CRX is, and it's still a front-wheel drive car. He's up from 7th, and this is battling, I think, for 5th right now on track, up ahead of Paul Mavoli now on that start. But look at Bill Ball. We knew that the pace was there from qualifying on day 3. We knew that Peter Shadowan hadn't run much, and it looks like Bill Ball, with the experience and the momentum he's kind of got on the week, he's up to speed quick as we're full course yellow.
Yes, indeed, full course yellow for that lap 1, turn 1 incident, and that's good news for Shadowan, who had fallen behind Ball. He's probably the one most disappointed because he had escaped, left the field in his wake, and wasn't looking back. But we are so many iconic names for portions of this track. One of the most prestigious road racing venues on this continent. It has a well-earned reputation. Perfect host for the national championships. As we get ready to go back to green, it will be Bill Ball to lead the field. The pole sitter, Peter Shadowan, right in his tire tracks, going to try and get a jump here if he possibly can. And the car, as Tom just mentioned, very fast in a straight line. Ball knows that it can be done around the outside because he did it on the opening lap. He'll take the defensive inside line anyway, and for now able to hold off Shadowan. Further back, here's Downey, the man on the move on that opening lap, able to sneak up to the inside of Goodale. Can't complete the pass and can't fall back into line because Fuller is right there and kind of shoves the 63 wide a little bit.
Yeah, they're being pretty nice to each other, leaving each other room, and that ran him off the track, but shuffled back from 4th to 5th now, as that puts Fuller up into 4th. These guys capitalizing on the number of cars that were taken out on the first lap, all fighting for the podium now, as there's a great look at Paul Mavoli also right in there. But look at Bill Ball checking out once again, and we saw Shadowan got a pretty decent jump and was able to pull alongside up until the braking zone, but as soon as those cars touched the brakes and turned once, it was Bill Ball that was able to pull away, and he continues to do so.
Now that's why we run the races. It's not just a qualifying competition, because if you look at the qualifying sheets, you think this thing's a foregone conclusion, and it's been anything but here. Admittedly, we haven't had a whole lot of green flag running to this point in this GTL championship race, but Bill Ball has been awfully impressive in his Nissan Sentra, the Westchester, Pennsylvania native.
attack Jonathan Goodale every time they get here, right to the roller coaster. Fuller is all up underneath the back of that MX-5, but then they get to the braking zone, the MX-5 a little more nimble than the front-wheel drive CRX. Great battle for the final podium spot. This is for the bronze medal, and as Hayward said, Goodale pushes for the podiums and gives a great interview, but he's got a lot of action behind him with Fuller and Mavoli.
The cars coming around to complete another lap gives us a chance to compare lap times at the front of the field, and we'll look at that. Shadowan has set the new fastest race lap, but only by a fraction of a second. He did close in, but the difference was 43 thousandths of a second. Those two cars very equal here in the early stages. Here's Fuller now, putting the pressure on Goodale.
Side by side into 3, you can make the outside work if you're brave, but he's not there, not far enough up. Goodale's going to be comfortable in front through turn 3. See how these cars ebb and flow through the handling section of this track.
And Fuller is right there too. This is very much a three-way fight for the final podium position with 11 laps to go here in the GTL National Championship race. Goodale settling into a rhythm here, but has company behind him in the form of both Fuller and Mavoli.
Fuller pops at the bottom of the S's. That's bold. Side by side is pretty scary at any speed through the S's here at VIR. I think that was Edward Nicholson, car number 0.
Jump back to 3rd place, 4th place, and 5th place, all in one frame. Three cars very different in terms of where they are quickest around this track.
Sure, yeah, we've got two frame cars, rear-wheel drive and the front-wheel drive CRX, which something must have happened as we were off camera from this battle, but it is Fuller dropped back. He was challenging right up on the back. You see the MX-5 skate around big time on the brakes down into the roller coaster section. Ball is off. Ball runs wide in turn 5 and turn 10, South Bend, easy to drop there. And as soon as you drop one tire, there's huge bumps. Look at all of that grass in the grill. That's going to be tough to even continue on. If he gets the car back on track, certainly he will have to stop and clear that grill or risk overheating that car.
Here's a look at what happened. Had a nice healthy lead at the time of the...
And look at this, one bump and it just goes airborne and you're off. That's the risk reward of that corner. It's such a high risk corner.
And look at the dust coming into the cockpit there. If it looks kind of strange about him rejoining and the way he went about rejoining, I'm not sure there was a lot of visibility in there.
Sure, certainly disoriented on top of being bounced around and tossed off the track, but he's gone again. If he can keep the temps of that car under control, he may still be in contention for a podium. You can see still clearing dirt out of that car, skating around a lot. Oh no, as Mavoli flies off trying to avoid, gonna kiss the tires. No, saves it, gets it back on. Now he's gonna have to deal with grass. Man.
It's been a wild race here in GTL.
Yeah, big shifting, and that's gonna promote Shadowan to the lead. Jonathan Goodale up into 2nd place, and that's gonna bring Graham Fuller back into the mix for a podium.
Everything has been turned on its head here just in about a half a lap or so. Shadowan has to be thanking his lucky stars. He was trying to find a way past that really fast Sentra and didn't have to work too hard at it, as ball just dropped the wheel over the curb just that little bit. That's all it takes, especially in that section of the track, which is so high speed.
Yeah, and you can see even now as he pounds onto the brakes, still shooting dirt, debris, and grass out of that car. So definitely not going to be, he had just actually turned the fast lap of the race of a 2:07.8 as well, so he was still getting stronger and stronger, but now really going to take a miracle for Bill Ball to be able to get back up to, let alone Peter Shadow and even Jonathan Goodale.
Now he's going to lose the third spot there to Fuller as well, so promote Fuller up to third. Ball drops back to fourth, and I have to wonder about all of that grass that's accumulated on the grill. If this was this morning, maybe it wouldn't have been as big of a difference. Temperatures were in the low 50s, but it's really heated up as the day has gone along. Never mind the fact that these cars, they produce a lot of heat.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised how little grass and how little time it takes to really cook an engine and start to pull power and heat soak everything in there. It can really happen very fast. So I'm actually surprised that even now, Ball is able to continue and kind of rally. But it's the runoffs. You only got 15 laps. Keep driving it. If it holds on, great. But you know, this is for all the marbles. So I don't blame him for staying out there. He's got to rally now and get in back behind the draft of Fuller and see if he can catch back up to challenge for that podium.
Just before he had the off, I was going to mention the fact that this is just the second runoffs appearance for Bill Ball, and that last one came at Indianapolis a couple of years ago. He finished 14th, so even with the problems, assuming the car stays under him here and the overheating doesn't creep in and become an issue, he's in position to better that by a pretty significant margin. That is the good news, but also to note, looking at timing and scoring, second place is heating up and anticipating my comment. Here's a shot of exactly that. Goodale holding it. Fuller, though, on the inside, now stuck on the outside. Can they make it too wide through this very technical portion of the racetrack?
Just going to point out the exact same thing. Fastest car on the track the last 3 laps in a row is Graham Fuller. So that front-wheel drive CRX semi-tube frame car is really fast right now. He's done a good job managing his tires, keeping the car underneath him. He's one of the few that hasn't had much drama, you know, so that car has had a nice clean race. Got a little behind in the S's there and has to rally that, but that car's been fast in a straight line every lap we've seen it, and he's got to just tuck up underneath Goodale. If he can get down the back straight, pull by that MX-5, he'll be in a good spot for a silver medal.
These two kind of survivors to some degree, given the chaos we've had, specifically at the start of this race. If you're just joining us, our second row was completely eliminated, no fault of their own, but some contact lap 1, turn 1 knocked them off course, and ultimately neither Ermish nor Huffaker have turned a lap in this race, and will have to settle for 19th and 20th after making the haul from California. And some other craziness has ensued subsequent to that, and we've seen just a really fluid running order. This might be suspicious here. We saw a lot more pace out of that number 2 car not so long ago. It doesn't seem to be quite at full song.
No, it certainly looks kind of visibly slow in a straight line. And his sector times are a couple seconds off per on this lap. So unfortunate, as he was on a heck of a charge up to the second spot to challenge Goodale, and now Goodale finds himself with some breathing room yet again. I can't tell you how many different times Goodale has inherited and then gotten rid of battles throughout this race. Fuller stays on track, but certainly slowed, which means he's got about 16 seconds in hand before he has to deal with Ryan Downey.
We'll have to see here what that lap time was. That last lap was...
I think Goodale's off. Goodale is off.
Oh,
Goodale's off
goodness.
outside turn 1, misses the turn 1 turn in again. He was actually the incident cause of that first lap.
And I think Fuller actually, or no, that was a different car. We had another car off track there too, right at the back of the shot. So Goodale gives up some ground, and right now, all of a sudden, the 2 car of Fuller is right back in the picture.
Yeah, Goodale got away with one on that one big time. If Fuller was having a lap, either one lap where he was struggling or the car is struggling now.
He did a 2:18 on the last lap. By comparison, Goodale did a 2:13. We'll have to wait and see what the first sector time looks like this time through to get a sense for whether or not it's something that was just a one-lap snafu or something more serious.
So guess who was the fastest car on track this lap? It's the red Miata right there in the full mirrors of Ryan Downey. Taz Harvey was the fastest car on track last time, and we've got ourselves a battle for 4th once again. Look at the float as they come up to the crest of the top of the S's into South Bend, that really high risk reward. You see the bumps even there on track. You dip one tire and you're done, like we saw Bill Ball do, but deep, and he's gonna almost keep it off track, but does not. Onto the back straight for Downey, and we saw that Miata has a big straight line advantage. That was not the best exit for Ryan Downey, and now Taz Harvey may have the ability to draft up and pull around once again.
Looks like that's the case. We've seen him do this before. He's able to make that move to the outside. Last time he did this, though, he missed that braking zone just barely and went for a off-track excursion. Has the pass completed, though, before they get to the braking zone this time around. That should help him in his bid to make good his escape. Nice and smooth this time through the roller coaster.
Makes it stick, won't make the same mistake twice, but I'm seeing a full course yellow with 3 to go.
3 laps to go, depending on what this full course yellow is. It's not a lot of time for any kind of cleanup, and it also wipes away a massive lead for Shadowan. That's the other car we saw go off track. That's FAR, I believe. Saw that earlier when it was right after we saw Goodale go off track. It happened right in the background of that. And Robert Farr from Hickory, North Carolina appears to have encountered some problems. And this yellow is about the only thing that slowed Peter Shadowan down. He has been fast since inheriting the lead after the issues for Ball. and had a lead of over 20 seconds prior to this yellow.
Yeah, this could introduce a really interesting dynamic to this race, though, because Peter Shadowan has not necessarily been lighting the world on fire with his lap times. He's consistently among the fastest laps, but he's not always the fastest lap. He had 20 seconds in hand because of all of the chaos we've been seeing, but here's the off for, I think that might actually be Nicholson. No, it is the 48 of FAR. This should be a pretty quick flat toe. That looks like a mechanical issue. Pretty quick flat toe and back to green, hopefully with maybe 1 or 2 laps to go. And my point was going to be that we saw Taz Harvey was the fastest car on track. Fuller was the fastest car on track for a couple of laps, although he's continued to be significantly off pace. Peter Shadowan may not have this thing covered because he has not been, he's either not been abusing the car to put the lap times down, or he doesn't have much more pace in the car.
The Mazda pace car out on track to pick up the leader, Shadowan. Pace car is presented by Mazda, so is our coverage here at the SCCA Runoffs. Mazda is such a strong supporter of grassroots motorsports, even in classes where they aren't even represented. This is not one of those. We have seen plenty of MX-5s in this race, but their contingency programs are almost second to none, I think it's safe to say. So 2.5 laps left under the yellow. I'm in agreement. I don't think this is going to be a lengthy cleanup. We had a car off on the inside of that corner, or maybe it was in the outside of that corner in the first lap, and they got that done in about 1 lap worth of full course yellow.
Yeah, that was Joe Huffaker, and they basically towed him across the track, tucked him behind a concrete wall, and we went back to green. So crossing the time loop this time through, it'll be 2 to go, which means if they give us only 1 lap of yellow, it'll be a white checkered, which will be fascinating, especially if Taz Harvey is within striking distance or if Jonathan Goodale has any speed left in that car.
Shadowan is a veteran of 11 previous runoff starts. He has 2 championships, including at least 1 in this class. I know he grabbed 1 at Mid-Ohio in 2016. Also has 3 runner-up finishes, so 5 total runoffs podiums. It's a lot of experience. He's seen a lot, been through a lot. That has to help you in a situation like this to stay calm, no matter what happens, fall back on that experience and be prepared. Yeah,
that experience tells me not only that he's prepared for defending on a restart like this if he needs to, but also that him running those kind of 212s, 213s may have been a decision rather than all the car has, because he knew that he wasn't being threatened. He had plenty of space to kind of take his time, be easy on the car in case of something like this situation playing out, because he does indeed have the top 5 all right there on track, completely uninterrupted by lap traffic or any other dramas. Unfortunately, I think Graham Fuller may be the sitting duck in this situation, where he seems to be off pace and now has to deal with Harvey, Downey, potentially Kristoff, and the rest of the field right up underneath him.
Looking at all these different cars and thinking about the different reactions to this yellow from the various drivers, it's probably all across the board. Some of them looking at this as an opportunity, others apprehensive, maybe some combination of the two for even other drivers. And take us into the mind of a race car driver thinking about the possibility of a 1-lap shootout.
I think if I'm Shadowan, I know I've got the car underneath me. I just got to deliver a good restart and kind of keep my distance. If I'm Jonathan Goodale, I'm very excited at my opportunity, but I also am aware that I haven't had the most consistent race. We've seen him make a couple of mistakes, and even, I would say, from a third-person perspective, cause the incident on lap 1 just by overcommitting into turn 1. So he's got to be careful, because he's kind of already crossed that line a couple times with knowing where the limit of that car is, but he does have a huge opportunity. I think Taz Harvey has also got a great opportunity, as he seems to have built up his confidence and his speed in that car. If he can get around Fuller pretty quickly on the restart, he might be able to challenge for even the win.
That's the voice of Tom O'Gorman. He knows of which he speaks. He's fresh off of competing just yesterday at Road Atlanta. We won't ask you how the race went, Tom. We'll just point out that you won the 2 races to start the season at Daytona and Sebring, and smile about those memories. But certainly can speak with some authority as to what these drivers are experiencing, and a long history as well with the SCCA for you, Tom.
Yeah, I started with autocross in the SCCA, and it's interesting. You bring up Mazda, you bring up any of these manufacturers, contingency supporters. It's amazing to me having gone from autocrossing in a local parking lot with the SCCA through the runoffs, never as a participant, but as a participant of the event, of the you know, the atmosphere of the event, into pro racing paddocks and others. How entwined the SCCA motorsports world is with all of motorsports, and you see familiar faces everywhere, and it's a really great community to be a part of.
That is the beauty of the SCCA. If motorsports is your thing, if you're an enthusiast for this kind of activity, there is a way to get involved, from Track Night in America all the way to the time attack, time trials, to the racing. You can be part of the volunteer staff, you can work corners. There are so many different ways of being involved with this sport that we all love so much, and no matter what your role is within the SCCA, it's a family atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely, and none of it works without that role. Even if you're helping guide cars into tech after the race, you're still as bit as important as that pace car driver and these competitors.
So coming around to take the white flag here, and the lights are still on the pace car. In previous races, the lights have been off by now if they were going to be going back to green. You got to be prepared for anything if you're one of these drivers, but that was my suspicion, that the checkered flag might be in hand. If they don't think they can get this cleaned up, then we will be unfortunately deprived of the shootout that we all thought we might see and we're looking forward to, but you really can't quibble with the end result here. Shadowan was dominant in qualifying, put together a solid run, running second most of the race, but when trouble befell Bill Ball, he was there to capitalize in what might have been the fastest car in this class throughout the course of the full week.
Yep, strong performance from Shadowan. Really, I think he just kind of managed his race perfectly. He didn't overcommit when he needed to chase Ball down, and then he just kind of sat with what he got once he inherited that position, and congratulations on the championship.
For Shadowan, that is the third national championship, first since 2016. Sixth Runoffs podium for him. Looking at some results for Goodale, this is a new career best at the Runoffs. He had a couple of second place finishes in 16 previous starts, including at Sonoma a year ago in this class, but does that one better here this time. And then for Fuller, just his third Runoffs appearance, his first medal. I suspect he's going to be very happy with that. His previous best, 8th place at Sonoma, at Indianapolis in 2017. I think we're going to have a pretty happy podium, all things considered.
Yeah, especially for Goodale and Fuller, coming from 5th and 7th on the grid respectively. A cherry on top. Fuller probably was not in the best position mechanically to take a restart, and he's probably thrilled that that checkered flag flew.
Rest of your top 10. Harvey, probably the one most disappointed not to go back to green. He was flying just before that last yellow. He'll have to settle for 4th and wonder what might have been. Downey had a wild ride today, but I think 5th place, he'll probably take it in the final analysis because he was all over the place, both good and maybe a little bit uncomfortable at times for him.
I like that. Good and exuberant.
That's right, exactly. Christoph will finish in 6th, Copley 7th. Gregorius matches his goal of a top 10 finish. He comes home in 8th. Mavoli in 9th. That one might have been a little bit better if not for some drama late in the race. And Lopshire, Roy Lopshire, able to bring his number 98 machine home in 10th. Great look at the various variety in this class. Scheibel in that very unique Beetle will finish in the 11th spot today, and I believe will be the last car running in this race. Attrition was high. We started with 20 cars. Looks like only 11 will finish on the lead lap.
Yeah, tough one out there for GT Light definitely this afternoon, and some of it brought upon themselves, some of it collateral damage, and some of it just conditions. We've seen really challenging conditions, especially this afternoon here at Virginia International Raceway, and impressed with, specifically on the podium, Shadowan and Fuller just running clean races to get their medals. And
for some of those that encountered some misfortune, you have to feel certainly for Zeckert, who had a nice run going, starting at the back, charging into the top 10 at a certain point. Bill Ball, of course, who led for a big portion of the race, but has dropped out, unfortunately. And then our row 2 that was out of the race in the first corner of this race, Joe Huffaker and Troy Ermish, didn't have a chance to show what they could do.
Yeah, especially coming from California. That's pretty heartbreaking. And we can only fingers crossed that Joe Huffaker's got what he needs to get that car back out for production tomorrow.
Just to the naked eye, it didn't seem like there was a ton of damage sustained, but as we discussed, it might not be worth taking the risk with the big F production race later in the weekend, and that's the big prize that he is chasing. There is a good look at the winning race car, the number 72, and you talked about this. This is a unique race car.
Yeah, you can even see just from his from Peter Shadowan reaching out of the car, the scale of his hand. CRXs are small cars, but that's an exceptionally small little car. Rear-wheel drive, very cool to see a Honda rear-wheel drive silhouette CRX take the win here over a similarly interesting rear-wheel drive silhouette MX-5 and then front-wheel drive CRX. Good variety, good parity. GT Light's always fast.